Welcome, Greek U Nation, to episode number 160 of the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. I am your host, Mike Ayalon, CEO of Greek University. I'm a speaker and author of the book From Letters to Leaders, Creating Impact on Your College Campus and Beyond. Fun fact, I have to credit my big brother in the fraternity for getting me started in college with a fitness routine that I've stuck to for over 20 years. So it consists of chest and triceps on day 1, cardio and legs on day 2, back and biceps on day 3, and day 4 is shoulders with a day for rest on day 5. Thank goodness I had that mentorship in the fraternity so many years ago to start good habits while I was in college. Otherwise, who knows what my health situation would look like today. So Rich, thank you very much from the bottom of my heart for taking care of my health. Now, we call these episodes the Fraternity Foodie Podcast because there's nothing like great food to bring fraternity and sorority leaders together. And our next guest absolutely gets it. She knows it's hard to make time for yourself without feeling guilty, but you feel stuck and unhealthy from the inside out, and you need a change. And if you're tired of feeling overwhelmed, stressed out, anxious, and of course, turning to unhealthy habits to cope with that anxiousness, and never really feeling like there's any time to put yourself first, then I think you're in the right place today because she has found the solution. Now, self-care didn't used to be a priority in her life, but now she has her own self-care routine that helps her put her oxygen mask on first, just like on the airplanes. Now, she helps to create your own simple and sustainable self-care routine through her proven system that includes movement, food freedom, and personal development without the guilt. She truly believes that we aren't meant to merely survive, but instead we're meant to thrive. Welcome to the show, Emily Nichols.
Mike, thanks for having me on. What an amazing intro. And I'm so proud of you for sticking to those habits so long. That's amazing.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. I tell you what, it's all my big brother in the fraternity. I mean, he started me out even before I joined the organization, which I thought was a great way to meet people. You know, he basically said, you know what? I'm going to take you under my wing. And for the next semester, I'm going to get you in a really good health routine. We're going to go and work out together. We'll hold each other accountable for an entire semester. And at the end of the semester, he's like, hey, so I'm in this fraternity. Do you want to come to like one of our recruitment events? And I'm like, I've been working out with you at the gym for an entire semester. Why in the world would I not come to your recruitment event, right? And it's so smart. And so hopefully other fraternity and sorority members listen to that story and they go, oh, okay, it's really all about a relationship. It's not about some big event that we need to put on to spend lots of money. Rich was going to the gym and working out whether I was there or not. He didn't have to spend any additional money to get me on board. And that's kind of the message that I want to relay to fraternity and sorority students, because it certainly is possible this fall. So anyway, all right. So I want to make sure that our listeners, that they really get to know Emily, they get to know you from the very beginning. And you decided on IU Bloomington, which is a beautiful campus, for your undergraduate experience. Why did you choose IU?
Yeah, so no big explanation other than my sister was going to IU. She's 4 years older than me. And I was like, hey, I really like visiting her at IU, and I'm from Indiana. It's only about an hour from home. There's so many different things I could study. Oh, and the campus is beautiful. And yeah, that's where I went. It's the only college I applied to. It's way different now. You know, I went to school, I graduated high school in '99, and going into college, I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. I just knew I had to go to college. Mom and dad were like, you got to go to school and get that degree. And I went there just with the hope of getting a college degree, and I ended up studying art history, and I threw a business minor in there because my parents were like, what are you gonna do with that? I was like, I don't know, I just really like studying art. And but it really, although I don't do anything with art history now, it really gave me the power to realize that I can see something from the start to the end, giving myself my own self responsibility, finishing something. And I made some really great lifelong friendships through going to IU that I'm still connected with those folks now today. And my husband went there too, which is really great. So we're
So
both
it worked
students
out for
at heart.
numerous reasons.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's great. And if you ever want a really inspirational place to go for a run, go through the IU fraternity and sorority row and
Oh
just
yeah.
look at the houses, the multi-million-dollar facilities that
Oh
the
my
students are
goodness.
living in.
Right.
And like, if that doesn't motivate you to run and get outdoors, I don't know what else to tell you. Like, that for me is just like heaven. I mean, anytime I'm on campus and I'm speaking at IU or working with one of the fraternities on campus, that's like the first thing I want to do is I want to go for a run. I'll take a shower and then I'll see you on stage. But I want to go for a run through the
Yeah.
Greek
Take a
row.
jog down Jordan.
Oh man,
You'll
I
be
love
inspired
that
for
jog
sure.
on Jordan, man. That
Yeah.
is my space. I just feel at home there. I don't know why. It's just something about, just being in awe of that community is just
Yeah.
so incredible. And speaking of Greek life at IU, you joined Alpha Zeta Delta at IU. So what was special about the women at Alpha Zeta Delta?
Well, like you said, the Greek system at IU is huge. I think when I went through Rush, there were maybe 18 sororities, and we came back a week early from Christmas break, and it was quite the experience, exhausted mentally and physically going through Rush. I wish someone would have just invited me to the gym and said like, hey, come join my sorority.
It was so easy.
Instead, like light bulb moment. But just going through all the interviews and interacting with the girls, I knew a couple of folks and within Alpha Z Delta. I had a roommate, her sister had been a sister there as well. And it just felt really like a diverse community, a lot of different women coming from different backgrounds. And for me, I wanted to meet more people. I wanted to be able to expand, the way I saw the world in a way. And I really liked that they had on Autism Speaks for their philanthropy. So I have a brother that has cerebral palsy. So anyone with special needs has a really special place in my heart. And I was like, man, I feel like this is something I could really feel like I could put a lot of passion into. So it was a really great experience. Like I said, I met some of my best girlfriends there. We lived out our senior year in our own house, which we had like our own little mini like satellite Alpha Z Delta house there. And it was just a really great experience in learning about giving back and serving others more so than anything, in addition to the friendships that I made there.
Yeah, I love that you brought up the whole autism piece of Alpha Z Delta, because I think not everybody knows how to articulate what the national philanthropy is and why it's important. And obviously that connected with you. And so I want more fraternity and sorority leaders to kind of lead with that, because if you make a connection on that level where you're doing philanthropy or community service, and there is some hook that you're like, oh, well, I'm really interested in that because of a family member, like you said, or some other reason. I mean, I just think it's a great way to talk about fraternity and sorority and the impact that we have, not only on the community in Bloomington, Indiana, but all over the world.
Yeah.
And obviously that resonated with you. So, so that's another really important lesson, I think, to take from this talk. I think that's fantastic. Now, in 2015, you and your husband, Dustin, you were feeling overwhelmed, lethargic, and you were just dealing with stress by using alcohol or sugar in your case. And I think a lot of the students that are listening right now can certainly empathize with that, and they certainly see some of those same behaviors with them coping with stress by using, let's say, alcohol or sugar. So talk to us a little bit more about what was going on in your life at that particular moment.
Yeah, I mean, we had been out of college for a while and I was busy climbing the corporate ladder. I did everything that I thought I was supposed to do when I graduated college. We got married a year later. We got a dog, we got a house. A few years later, we had our first kiddo. We have 2 boys now. And I was super stressed out. I was so busy trying to take care of everyone else and trying to show up to be the best mom, the best colleague, the best wife, the best friend, sister, mom to my kids, that I wasn't serving anyone at full capacity. I was really running on very low empty tank. And I wasn't coming from a place of overflow. My pitcher was dried up. Like there was barely any drops left in it to pour into others. And dealing with that, as far as stress and anxiety, I dealt with that by turning to like, oh, I'm just gonna have some margaritas because being at college and turning 21, it was like, oh, we get to go to the bars now. We develop some habits where it's like, okay, what we do for fun is we go out to bars or we go out to drink or we're eating late night at food. We had developed some unhealthy habits to deal with stress in college because college was a very stressful time, and getting to get to graduation was stressful. But then as we adapted into our new lifestyle, it wasn't serving us anymore. It made us feel, like you said, lethargic. We were overwhelmed and just tired all the time. My husband used to be an athlete. He ran track and cross country in high school, and he had gained so much weight, and he was working night shifts at work that he just physically and mentally wasn't able to be the best dad and the best colleague he wanted to be.
Mm.
So around that time, we decided, okay, we need a change. And he suggested doing something called the Whole30. And I was like, absolutely not. I am not doing that. That's crazy. Is exactly what I told him. I was like, there is pretty much a 30-day elimination protocol where you take out known foods that are known to be problematic, either physically or mentally, and then you systematically reintroduce those foods back in after the 30 days to see how they interact with your body. Like, for example, when we reintroduced legumes for my husband, he'd always had this dry patch of like eczema on his elbow. And when he had black beans again, the patch of eczema came back. It was gone during the 30 days, which was really interesting and something we would have never found out. But even deeper than that, it helps you evaluate your habits and relationship around food. So I noticed, okay, when I'm stressed, I'm turning towards alcohol or chocolate chip cookies. Everyone who listens to my show knows my love of chocolate chip cookies. I still love them. Still love them. I don't see them as good or bad now. They're just cookies. And I was able to replace those unhealthy habits with new habits now. So it's really helped develop into my own way of eating now, my own way of looking at food. Like I said, I don't see food as good or bad anymore. It's just food to help me fuel. And I've lost the guilt around having chocolate chip cookies. Now I'll have a couple now versus like a whole package and hide the package in shame from my family to be like, oh, look what I did to help myself cope. So, deeper than when just starting with the food, it turned into so much more because it really had a big ripple effect in our lives from there.
Hmm. There are so many listeners right now that really listen to your story and see the same types of behaviors for themselves. And so I think you talking about it is really helpful, because they should know that, yeah, it happens and there is a better way. And ultimately, I mean, for me, it's all about tacos. Okay. I mean, I can eat tacos like nobody's business.
Same.
And it's like, but at the same point, and I feel, really good physically and everything, but I'm always chasing this abs thing where if I could just get, my abs in shape, I would be so happy. But I love tacos, right? So I want to know, what is your 3-step food freedom method? What is that all about? And how can that help me?
Yeah, so you can still have tacos and abs. Yes,
Right.
absolutely,
I want
absolutely.
both.
Yeah, same, Mike. Tacos are like my favorite thing. Like, I consider myself like a big, huge Taco Tuesday enthusiast. Like on Tuesdays, my boys are like tacos for dinner, right? I'm like, duh. Um, but yeah, it's losing the guilt around food. So as far as what I teach within my signature program, it's called Self-Transform You. One of the aspects we talk about is food freedom. And that's something I learned from the Whole30, where I don't work with my clients now unless they're a particular a Whole30 client as far as like elimination protocol, but I work with them as far as my 3-step food freedom program. So we really just take the time to recognize your current eating habits. So like I said, when I was stressed, I was turning to alcohol or sugar. It's like, okay, what were the triggers to do that? Or at the time, was I really hungry? Was it more emotions at the time versus actual hunger? And we give some strategies within the program to help you recognize and get some data about yourself more so than anything to kind of track, oh, here's what I'm doing with food, and maybe not even realizing you're doing it, but seeing it written out on paper or a Google Doc for that matter makes a big difference. And then just really thinking about simplifying the way you eat, just thinking about having veggies, a protein, and a healthy fat at every meal. Just keep it simple. Don't have processed foods. Just keep it simple and don't feel like you have to make some big elaborate recipe. I really teach on keeping it simple as far as like meal prep goes and actually preparing your meals, because a lot of the folks that listen to my show are busy working moms, and they see like hashtag meal prep Sunday and people are spending like 3 hours in the kitchen. And it's like, I don't have time for that. Like, even if you're in college or getting ready to graduate from college, you don't have time to meal prep for 3 hours. And if you do, more power to you if that's something you love. But I don't have time for that. So we simplify the way we create our meals and what we actually eat. And then from there, we just take away the guilt around food. Like I said, food has no morality. It's not good or bad. It's just a chocolate chip cookie. So we start to lose the guilt around that because you've had that data. You start simplifying the way you eat. You start fueling your body with more colorful foods, and thus you crave those more than you crave the sugar and the processed foods. Then you stop losing the guilt. And like I said, you can have a few chocolate chip cookies and enjoy those guilt-free versus having a big shame cycle of eating a whole package of chocolate chip cookies and just repeating and repeating and repeating that cycle and feeling like you're always dieting. I don't want people to ever diet. I want them to have adapted lifestyle as far as their way of eating. So that way they can go out to dinner and enjoy some tacos and have a margarita and some chips and queso with it too. And the next day go feel free to work out, not as a form of punishment, but as a form of joyful movement and taking care of yourself.
One thing that I think would be really helpful for our listeners right here is to learn more about what your self-care routine looks like today, because if they can duplicate that, then I think they would be on their road, right? On the right path. So what does your self-care routine look like?
Yeah, I wish I had a self-care routine when I was in college because it would have been a total game changer. But I had to go through my own transformation to find out what that looked like for me. And like I said, that really started with the Whole30 and had a ripple effect from there. So what I started doing from there, Mike, I was like, oh my gosh, I feel so much better by what I put on my plate. I want to start moving my body more. So I started working out more. You know, my husband started working. We started doing like Spartan races together because we were like, if we can do the Whole30, we can do any type of hard thing. You know, he's a Boston Marathon qualifier now as well. And for me, it was like, I want to move my body. I want to have joyful movement. You know, I am now a physical personal trainer. I'm a coach at Orange Theory here in Avon, Indiana as well. And that movement piece was a huge part of my self-care routine. So it started with how I'm eating. Then it had a big snowball effect, as if you will, into movement. And then I started focusing on personal development, where I was like, I want to fill my mind with positive things. I was reading and books and listening to books and podcasts, just figuring out how I can grow. I became a habit junkie. That's a big part, like the keystone, like the guacamole on top of the taco, if you will, of all my programming is habits and making this all stick in your life. I even changed who I was hanging around with. You know, as I became healthier, some of the friendships that I had weren't serving me anymore, and the activities we were doing together. And I surrounded myself with like-minded women who wanted to go run, who wanted to go to like an Orange Theory class together, or who wanted to go out to tacos together and have all of that experience together guilt-free. So pretty much what my self-care routine looks like is those three things. So it's focused around the way I eat, it's focused around movement, and it's focused on mindset work. And that looks different for everybody every day. And pretty much what I teach within my programs is how to logistically make this work in your schedule without it feeling like, oh my gosh, I got another thing on my to-do list. More so it's just part of your lifestyle where, like you said earlier, you're putting your oxygen mask on first so you can breathe. So you can breathe, and you can breathe into others, whether that would be family, whether that would be at your job, or whoever it be. You need the stop feeling like the weight is on your chest all the time, being able to breathe by just taking care of yourself through a self-care routine.
Mm-hmm. So when I go out and I speak with college students, it's usually like 60 minutes at a time. And I have those 60 minutes to convey what it is that the information that I need to convey to the students. In my case, it's to make sure that we have a safer college campus at IU Bloomington, for example, right? As it relates to hazing and sexual assaults and alcohol and drugs and things like that. So, you know, for you, I mean, how would you help college students? Let's assume you had the 60 minutes on stage. How would you help the college students now with fitness, nutrition, and mindset habits? Is it that you would help them discover what their self-care routine looks like? I mean, how would you help them?
Yeah, more so than anything, Mike, we're going to help them redefine what self-care really looks like, whether it's through a fraternity or sorority, because men have to take care of themselves too.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Yes.
But like you said, really focused in on what does self-care look like for you? Because so like I said, mine, those are proven habits that are good for you mentally and physically and will serve you professionally, personally, in all areas of your life. But someone may be like, Emily, movement's great, but I'd rather just like go for a walk every day instead of like hitting up like an Orange Theory class. That's
Mhm.
great. But figuring out where are those areas in your life where you're like, how does it make you feel to go through every day? Do you feel chaotic? Do you feel lethargic, like I mentioned earlier? And it could be simple as starting with, okay, what are you eating? How are you moving every day? What are you filling your mind with? I don't feel like it was talked enough when I was on campus to talk about mental health. And that's something that's so important for college students now, and trying to destigmatize what that really looks like as well. So helping them figure out, well, what does a self-care routine look like for me in these 3 areas, customize it for you. But like I said, focus in on habits. How can you actually make this work in your life? So, it's finals week. You got an 8 a.m. class and you got like an 8 p.m. class the next day. How can you make this work, and scheduling it out every day and using some proven habit strategies to make this work? So after a while, it doesn't feel like work. Because I think a lot of times when we're trying to take on new habits, it takes too much brain power. We have so many tabs open in our heads and on our laptops as well. So by incorporating some habit strategies like habit stacking, for example, where you're able to stack a new habit on top of brushing your teeth. That's something you do every day unconsciously. You should be 2 times a day. And stacking some new healthy habits in there, where after a while, it's the same concept. You don't have to think about it.
Yeah.
It doesn't take a lot of brain power. And after a while, it's just something you do on autopilot, and it just helps you feel good from the inside out. So like I said, it's very personal and customized to each person, but we could be taking a look at logistically how to make time to take care of yourself from the inside, and just starting with those 3 simple areas. And you can take it deeper from there once you have established a nice self-care routine for yourself.
I like that a lot. That's really good. And I love what you said about mental health too. I agree with you completely. When you and I were in college, mental health was just not a discussion
Oh,
on college campuses. And I feel like, wow, what a missed opportunity that was. And I am seeing that a lot of fraternities and sororities are starting to incorporate that into their new member education, which I love. I'm like, this is great, because it kind of goes back to what you were just saying, talking about stacking it, right? How can we kind of add that to existing programs to get it to stick? And I think by incorporating mental health into the new member education, hopefully, I think in time, this is going to become something that's going to help us eliminate that stigma that you talked about. So I think we're making progress there, but obviously we still have a long ways to go.
yeah.
And, I love that you're also the host of the Self-Transformed podcast. I think that's also totally awesome. So talk to us about some of the guests that you have on that podcast. Talk to us about some of the topics of discussion that you have.
Yeah. So, kind of the pillars of what you'll find on Self Transformed is talking about transformation. What does that look like? Because we're always ever evolving. I say on this show all the time, there is no finish line when it comes to your health. It's an ever evolving thing. And as you're going to go through different seasons of your life, you're going to want to have these pillars of self care that we've just talked about in place. So, like when 2020 hits, or you start a family, or you're trying to look for a new job, you have these pillars in place where you're able to still take care of yourself. So that's the overarching theme of the show, and just redefining what that self-care routine looks like to you. So I have a lot of guests on, a lot of fitness experts. The whole month of July, we're actually focusing on Whole30 and bringing on some amazing Whole30 guests as well. I'm actually a Whole30 certified coach as well. So I'm bringing on some of my Whole30 friends from our community there. A lot of fitness experts, like I said, a lot of mindset work, a lot of women talking, female entrepreneurs talking about how they're using habits and redefining what self-care looks like for them. Because unfortunately, self-care in itself, like I said, we're trying to redefine what it looks like. Because if you were to look up like hashtag self-care Sunday on Instagram, you see people doing bubble baths and getting manicures and pedicures. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's fabulous. Give me that all day long, any day. But self-care kind of has a bad rap. It's actually the hard stuff you do every day to work on yourself from the inside out. And that's a lot harder versus going and getting a massage.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? So that's what you'll expect to hear on the show. A lot of laughter, a lot of talks about tacos and margaritas and cookies, obviously, as well. And enjoys it. It's just really inspiring folks to figure out how to make a transformation in their life and having those pillars of self-care in their life to help them take them through every season of their life. I wish I had some pillars of self-care in place when I graduated college and while I was in college. Like I would go to the SRSC every once in a while, watch my husband run, or just get on the elliptical and just spin for like an hour, as long as you could, until they kicked you off for the next student to get on.
Hmm.
And it was just so I could fit in my jeans to go to Kilroy's the next night, was why I was doing it, to be honest, right? So just redefining what that looks like, and no matter what age or what stage in life you are, and having those pillars in place to take you there.
Yeah, you and I are alike in many ways, not just because of the tacos and the chocolate chip cookies, but that ultimately we want a better experience for the college students that are going through today. And so I see that in you and I see that in myself. You know, I wish that we had Greek University. I wish that we had, this book, From Letters to Leaders. It would have been so good to have these resources available to me as a leader of a fraternity. And we didn't have it at that time. So we're trying to make it a better experience. And so I think we connect certainly there. The other really interesting thing is, as you know, on Instagram, because, you have a big following there on Instagram, it seems like on social media, we always want to paint this perfect picture of what our life looks like. And I know people that I follow on Instagram and I know them in real life, and they show like the best version of themselves. But meanwhile, inside, I know they're struggling. Like they're literally like going through a divorce, like all this stuff is happening under, the ground that you don't see. And everyone is trying to maintain this perfect persona, that's visible on social media. And I looked at your Instagram, and one of the first things that I learned is that your son Dylan is having open heart surgery later this month. He wants to correct a congenital heart defect, and I know he's handling it maturely and bravely, and I think that's awesome, right? My son had to go through, some surgery, probably about a year ago as well, and he was the same way. I mean, really brave, just like, I'm going to get this done, and everything's going to be fine, and that's wonderful. But you felt compelled to share that story, and I'm just wondering, why did you feel compelled to share that and just be vulnerable in that moment?
Yeah, that's a great question, Mike, because I was hesitant to share it on the podcast at first, because I was like, I want this all to be about self-transformed and what we're doing to help people with fitness, nutrition, and mindset work. But I was like, this is really something hard that my family's going through. We're handling it well. We're moving forward because it's something that has to be done.
Mhm.
I was like, he's had open heart surgery before when he was 8 months old. And that was a period in my life where I wasn't taking care of myself at all. I was like, it's about him. And right now it is all about him. But I have set up these pillars of self-care in my life where I'm like, y'all, I want to show you how I'm still going to show up and take care of myself so I can show up for him with a full cup and not feeling depleted, and selfishly, in a way, I guess over the past year and a half of having this show, I've had a couple of other heart moms on the show and sharing their own personal stories, like how they've been able to take care of themselves and how there's purpose to everything they're doing. And I'm just like, yes. And I'm listening back to my own episodes and getting inspired from those women. So just sharing that, hey, I'm doing what I'm preaching and teaching my clients to do, is to take care of yourself. And I know life is going to get hard. There's going to be some really hard times and bumps in the roads in different seasons of your life you're going through, but you still need to be able to take care of yourself. And there's nothing absolutely selfish about that. Now, it may look different because I may be in the hospital for a few days with him, but that's okay. I'm still going to show up for myself. And I felt it was important to let the ladies know who follow along my show that I'm going through something that's really challenging and hard, but I'm still going to show up for myself, and there's purpose to it. So maybe I would inspire another woman who's maybe going through a hard time to not curl up in a ball in the corner of the room, but to still, show up for themselves so they are able to show up for their families.
That's why people are drawn to you. That's why they listen to your podcast. That's why they follow you on social media, is that you're brave enough to be vulnerable and to talk about some of the real issues, and people identify with that. And they're like, I know how Emily feels right now because I've been there.
Sure.
And so having that community to basically say, yeah, I know what that's like, it just, gets everybody to really lean into your message. And so I think that's one of the reasons why you're doing so well. And we do love good food here at Fraternity Foodie. So, and clearly, you and I could go out and order probably the same dishes. So I'm wondering, what is your favorite restaurant in the Indianapolis area next time I'm in town?
Yeah, so I would either go to Nada or Bakersfield. So for
Okay.
taco, obviously. So Nada has a really fantastic guacamole, and Bakersfield has like the best margarita and street tacos. It's my husband and I favorite place to go out to dinner for sure.
That sounds great. I just made a note so that way I'm going to hit up both restaurants the
Yeah,
next time I'm in town. So
for
that
sure.
sounds absolutely amazing. All right. So if our listeners, if they want more information or they want to book you to speak on their college campus, maybe just work with their fraternity or sorority chapter, where is the best place for them to go and connect with you?
Yeah, so you can find me just at emily-nichols.com to learn more about what I do. I'm actually, the past year and a half, have been doing virtual and in-person workshops for some local universities here in Indianapolis with some women's groups, just leading live workouts, and then a self-care workshop afterwards to help them define and structure a self-care routine for them, and always looking to do that and empower some other women. Because like I said, I remember in college, and I clearly remember my roommates going and just running on the treadmill forever and ever and ever, and me going and getting on the elliptical forever and ever. And I want to help women break up with that relationship and really figure out how to take care of themselves from the inside out, and making taking care of yourself fun as well. So thank you so much. I appreciate you having me on the show.
Hey, it's my pleasure. And that website is Emily-Nichols, Nichols.com. I see this as a really big hit for like sorority conventions, sorority, conferences, something like that would be absolutely tremendous. I think that there's a lot of women out there that would certainly love to see this program incorporate that fitness part into the day. I think there's a really nice play here. And even for the men as well, I think there's a lot to learn
Mhm.
here.
Yeah,
So
can't forget about the guys. That's
yeah,
for
we can't
sure.
forget about the guys because I tell you what, I mean, as far as like the mental health piece is concerned, I mean, all of that is so
Yeah,
important. Nutrition, all of this stuff. I just feel like we don't talk about it enough as men,
yeah.
and we should. But I think hopefully things are changing, and with great people like you leading the way, I think we're going to get there.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that, Mike.
It's my pleasure, Emily. Thanks so much. And to our listeners, we hope that you enjoyed this talk with Emily. Make sure that you like it, share it with other students on campus, other sorority members, other fraternity members, and we hope to see you on another episode of Fraternity Foodie. Thanks so much. Bye for now.